Welcome to Home Education Matters, the weekly podcast supporting you on your home education journey.
Welcome to Home Education Matters, the podcast that answers all your home education questions. You're here with Diane today, and today I'm talking to Keeley. Keeley, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about what you do?
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. It's nice to be here talking to someone else who's passionate about home education and children. So I'm Keeley, mummy to three. I've got a 12-year-old, a 10-year-old and a 3.5-year-old whirlwind. And I run a company called The Farming Mother. So that's animal therapy, education and support for children. We do welcome any child into our setting and their parents, that we focus mainly on neurodiverse children and children with additional needs. I have a crazy farm full of animals, which ranges from ducks, chickens, rabbits and guinea pigs up to sheep, goats and horses, and anything in between that finds its way here. We tend to be can you take this animal? And we say yes. So we did used to breed pigs as well. We used to have like 40 piglets at a time, and the sows and the boars and things like that, which was always interesting because pigs never stay in their pen, no matter what you do. So there'd always be a piglet roaming somewhere. Usually when you're doing the story of the three little pigs, a piglet would pop into the stable, which is always good fun because the kids thought it was hilarious. Which it just makes it real, and that's what the farm's all about. It's all about the kids being able to interact with the animals because the benefits for them are incredible. So the Farming Mother came about. I used to blog about the naughty antics of the farm, especially over COVID. It was my outlet. I was suffering really bad with anxiety and depression. I got severe endometriosis and fibromyalgia. I'd just had a newborn baby, which I was suffering from postnatal depression and PTSD from a terrible birth. Wow. And then we were thrown into lockdown. So I had all these emotions, a farm full of animals and a newborn baby and 2 older boys to entertain. And we just started doing projects on the farm, and my animals are quite comical. There's nothing that they don't do. And I started blogging about it as a bit of an outlet to help me with my mindset. And the following just took off. So by the time we came out of COVID, I had a queue of people wanting to come and join us to come and meet these animals in person. And it was just never ending. So I set up the farm sessions because of the benefit that it had for me with my mental health, and also the children going through lockdown. My middle one has got undiagnosed ADHD. He's very wild. He's a child that you find up a tree or on the stable roof. With such an imagination.
Yeah, I've got one of those.
And then Madison Genevieve, honestly, Lewis is forever just laid down cuddling animals. He's quite zen compared to the other two. And then Madison Genevieve has got severe autism and sensory processing. She's non-verbal, along with a load of different other things that she's going through assessment for. And the difference between her being with the animals compared to not was just, it was remarkable, the difference in her and having her outside and interacting with the animals. So we opened up the farm school to help and offer other people this opportunity to be around animals. And my biggest thing was, if you go see animals anywhere, you can't touch them. You're feeding them through a fence. You're looking at them from, we went somewhere and he was up on a mezzanine in a barn looking down on the animals, putting feed through a chute to feed them. And I was like, that's not hands-on therapy with an animal. Kids need to be in there, touching them, feeling them. So you can talk about it and they get this sensory thing from it, from touching the wool, describing how it feels, seeing how the chickens feel or how the feathers feel, and holding them and getting up and personal. And to be fair, our animals just love the attention. So yeah, we opened it up and the kids get hands-on. They feed the chickens out of the hands, they collect the eggs, they muck them out, they fill the straw up. So there's all those different ways of talking and experience and educating, not just the kids, the parents. The amount of parents that don't know the difference between straw and hay is unbelievable. And then just the different types of animals. So like some of the little kids will prefer to be in with the rabbits, or they'll call the sheep, and the confidence that grows from the kids from coming and interacting with the animals. We have some that start that they're only like 12 months old and they're just pottering about, so that they're now 3 year old and they're shouting the animals to come up from the bottom of the field. And you have this herd of goats and sheep that come running and surround them, and the kids are stroking them and playing with them and just mingling in with them. And it just makes such a difference, because I've got a quote here that says, "The gentle presence of farm animals can help us find peace and balance in a world that's often chaotic and overwhelming." And I think that just describes the feeling of the kids on the farm, that it is their place of peace and they can get their feet on the ground, they can be grounded, they can interact and just find that peace, especially with children that are neurodiverse. That, especially down here in Cornwall, it gets the holiday season, and these places that they might have had that was safe, secure, and wasn't overwhelming just become massive, overwhelming places that then trigger everything that we've worked on with them. That then that place doesn't become safe anymore. And they've got so many different people, so many different sensory things going on, that they start to close in on themselves again. And that's everything that we've worked through. And a lot of children home ed for the reason that they have additional needs or they're neurodiverse, because they can't regulate themselves in mainstream schools because there's too much going on and there's not that small group of interaction. So we limit the numbers at the farm so that the children are never overwhelmed. It's very much a place where the parents don't feel judged. They don't have to feel like they have to explain themselves and explain the children's behaviour. Because for me, that's the biggest one, especially Mad being at the age where she just looks like a tangerine toddler. You go in somewhere and she's having a meltdown and you've got people tutting going, "Oh, you should just control your child," or "they should behave." And you then feel judged. You then feel isolated because you're on your own trying to deal with a situation with all these eyes on you. And the farm is just a space where parents can come, they can find other people to create a support network with. And we also involve them in the stuff. I remember going to play groups when my eldest one was little, and you didn't know anybody as a first-time mum. You're going to these things with no support network, and you sat in the corner on your own, not feeling like you're fitting because people have already been there with other children or they know each other. And at the farm, we have free teas and coffees for the adults. There's benches for them to sit on. They can get interactive with the children and do the activities. We get the parents involved because it creates that bond between them, because a lot of parents can just feel overwhelmed, especially if you're not used to having a child that's got additional needs, if you've never been around that and it's your first time. It's overwhelming. And a lot of things that we teach the kids, the adults learn too. So like the mindfulness, the meditation, breathing, the just taking a few deep breaths and getting your feet on the ground and connected is all things that they can learn, that they can incorporate when they need space as well. And creating craft activities that they can do together. A lot of parents don't know where to start when it comes to doing crafts with the children. So they just avoid doing it because they don't know how to do it. And a lot of the time the kids they'll wander off and start doing something else, and the parents will still start doing the craft. But they're being present in the moment, and they're taking that time for them, and they're learning to be present and forget everything else that's going on and just be in the moment. And it makes a huge difference once the parents got those tools that they can dip into, that both the child and the adult know. So the breathing, the hand on your heart, connecting your mind and your heart. And we do some breathing exercises with the children, which come from Mini Minds UK. And we're connecting with like a colour and breathe it through us and feel it swirling around in your belly and coming out. And the amount of people said, "My child won't sit and do that." And they're like, "Oh, they've done that." I'm like, "Now you do it." When the kids are so overwhelmed and it's taking all your energy, you taking 5 minutes to go breathe doesn't have any impact on them, but it makes a world of difference to you. So we teach the parents the skills as well as the children, although the parents will admit that they need the skills when they come sometimes. They pick up things and like, "Oh yeah, I did that," and that works that time. And it just makes that big difference to the whole family then.
I love your story. I absolutely love hearing about it, and you're clearly really passionate about it. I love the way that, you turned what sounds like a really difficult situation that you were in, and a very overwhelming and anxiety provoking situation, and you kind of just, you wrote your way out of it, you blogged your way out of it, and that's a really inspiring thing to hear.
It wasn't always the case. We lived in North Yorkshire. I was a proper Yorkshire lass, and I was always taught, stick up a lip and you get on with it. And I'd gone from having a mainstream salon as well as only a car garage and the farm to I was working 6 days a week plus the farm every day, so I couldn't even stand. I was bedridden. Madison Genevieve shouldn't have been here. With my severe endometriosis, I was due for a hysterectomy. And I was 3 weeks off my hysterectomy, and I had a massive bleed, and I had to go for a scan, and I was 3 weeks pregnant with her.
God.
At that point, they told me that she wouldn't make it, and then obviously I had to stop all my pain relief that I was on, which was huge amounts just to make each day manageable. And they told me that she'd make my endometriosis worse. The best thing I could do was get rid of her. But to me personally, I should never have been able to have her, so she was a miracle, and I'd give her every fighting chance. And that meant that I had to close my business. I couldn't work. I tried working a few hours a week. I'd then start bleeding again, then I'd have to have scans, and it got to the point where I was being scanned 5 times a week, and I was in and out of hospital, and I'd gone from this mum that was always at the school gates, doing every activity with the kids, working full time, doing the animals, riding, schooling them, doing everything, to I couldn't even lift a cup. So by the time I'd finished my pregnancy with Matt, depression and well and truly took hold, and I was in a dark place, and the only thing that kept me going was the fact that I had to keep going because this baby inside me needed me to keep breathing for her to be born. And then when I had her, they brought her early, and I had a major hemorrhage. I lost 3,000 litres of blood.
Oh my goodness.
I had to have transfusions. They couldn't take me to theatre. I'd had no pain relief, and it was just such a traumatic experience that Mads wasn't feeding. She kept on holding her breath and had to keep things like tucked to the side and check her breathing and everything. And this was just as COVID was coming about, but wasn't apparent. They ended up closing the wards because of severe flu, which turned out to be COVID.
Yeah.
So I discharged us and brought us home. But I had to keep having daily tests at the hospital. Little to be known that my boys came down with COVID, which we didn't know was COVID at the time. With a 5-week-old baby who became really poorly as well. I was in the midst of depression. Obviously, the baby blues kicked in. I couldn't understand why. I had this bundle of joy. I had my boys. I'd survived this really traumatic birth that they told my husband to say goodbye to me. They said I wasn't making it out. I should have been like, I'm here. We've done it. And we can cope with everything else after. But it just got darker and darker, and I hit the depths of the darkest hole you can get to, and I didn't want to be here anymore. I finally reached out to the doctors, and I was given antidepressants, which there is a time and a place for everything. All they did for me personally was just take away that little bit of light that I had, this love that I could feel, but just numb me to it, and I just couldn't feel anything. And it was at that point that someone I'd lost touch with for about 10 years was teaching mindfulness and meditations and gratitude and crystals, and I was a bit like, it's all a load of woo, I'm not interested. If these tablets aren't helping me, this isn't going to help me. And she just said to me, what have you got to lose? And I struggled to even get dressed. I couldn't get out of bed. The pain was so bad, and I'd literally just sit crying with the horses because I ran the farm. The only person who was going to feed those animals and do them animals was me. So even if it meant I went out in my pajamas and I hadn't even had a shower for 2 days, I had to go out and feed them animals. And that was the difference. They was what helped me through, and I forever owe them. Someone will always take care of my kids. None of my family's farming. I had to take care of the animals, and it was them that got me up in the morning. It was them that got me outside and got my feet on the ground, and I had to breathe and I had to be there. And I started doing crystals, I started doing gratitude, affirmations, anything that I could do that would just bring me this little bit of light. Like even on the darkest days, I am grateful that the sun rose. It's going to rise every day. That's something I can be grateful for. I was grateful that I could make a drink. So I just slowly started to implement these things. And that's when the blogging came about of the animals, because it was just like, that was my outlet, blogging about what we was doing. The funny thing that Lana had badged the gate, or she'd read on my shoes, which is a sheep. She's incredibly naughty. If you go back to some of the blogs from like a year or so ago, she is the naughtiest sheep you've ever met. And it just slowly started to lift me up. I looked into Reiki, I started having Reiki, and it was at that point, as these things started to work, that I thought, I need to do this to help other people. I closed, as the pandemic came back out, I closed my mainstream salon and went into holistic wellness, because I'd seen the difference of what these had done to me. I knew I had to help other people that didn't know where to turn, didn't know where to ask for help, or felt embarrassed to say, look, I'm struggling. So I blogged about it. I spoke about how dark the days had been, how I used the animals to help me through, how they'd helped my children through the pandemic, how they'd helped Mad. And like I say, that's when the blog grew and people wanted to come and see what was going on, wanted to see how you could do mindfulness and yoga with a goat in the field. And it just, which is always challenging. Even if you do anything, I'll always have an animal clothing on top of me. But it just makes a difference. Nature is such a powerful place to be, because you get to connect with the elements, whether it's raining or it's sunny. Getting outside is the best thing to do for your mindset and your mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely I'm with you absolutely all the way on that one. I'm not a big animal person, but I'm definitely an outdoor person. Yeah, so it's just, I think, it's like a gift, isn't it? So you've you've had this gift from nature and you're kind of passing that on to other people, and it feels there's something very kind of holistic about that, and something very integrated about that, and it sounds really lovely. So when did it kind of turn into a business? Is it a business? Is it a private business, or is it what kind of?
No, it is a business. So we had a farm shop selling our produce from the farm. Because obviously I bred rare breed pigs as well, so obviously they had to pay their way. And it got to the point where I was running between doing things that I had people booking in for goat walks or having an afternoon tea. Then we was running toddler sessions, like I say, we was reading the 3 little pigs with piglets in the stable running around. And then it kind of, when I was in North Yorkshire, it is very much regimental. We found that no one was open to alternative therapies as much in North Yorkshire, or a lot of people didn't have understanding of children that have additional needs on neurodiverse, and there was brush under the carpet. And when we came down to Cornwall on holiday for the very first time last June. I'd never been to Cornwall. I got here, I literally got my feet on the ground, and the business had just been ticking away. We'd just been doing these toddler sessions and things, and I had this passion of where I wanted to take it, but I just felt this block. And we came down to Cornwall. We'd literally been here a couple of hours, and I was like, this feels like home. And hubby's like, what do you mean? I was like, just let's have a look to see if there's any houses about. And we was mortgage free up in North Yorkshire. I was like, right, we done, like we created everything we want to create. And I was like, there's just something. And the difference in the kids just being in Cornwall, one, it's better weather. Two, where we was in North Yorkshire, 6 months of the year, you used to be knee deep in snow or mud and 6 foot snowdrift. So we came to Cornwall, and it's like winter in Cornwall was like our summer. And it's like, it just felt like home. So we managed to find a house, and it was like, right, we'll have to rent while we sell our farm. And it just found, within 2 days, we found a house which was perfect, fitted everything. We couldn't find one with land, but there was one with land 10 minutes away. So I thought, well, this will do until we sell our farm. And literally within 2 weeks, I'd signed the contract from the house, and I was back down here. I packed everything up and drove all the animals 400 odd miles 3 times a week, bringing everybody down. It was a move and a half, but we got here, and I just felt like I could breathe. It just felt like everything had come together. And I started advertising the farm sessions, and it just took off. It was the acceptance of people understanding children with additional needs, the acceptance of talking about mindset and mental health, and it just all fell into place. And we was very fortunate that we found a house a couple of months ago that meant that I could move all the animals home, because there was only 10 minutes away. Ever since I started the farm, I had never not lived away from them. And I was struggling with that. The animals are very much a part of my family, as are the kids. It's like, I owe them so much. They got me through such a dark time that I just felt like I was missing a part of me. I felt trapped. Although we had a nice garden and things, I just felt trapped that I didn't have that open space. I make a joke that I'm a gypsy girl at heart, that I need to be out in the field and feel my feet on the ground. But it is very much that. It has got to be that I am outside and I am connected with them. And we found this amazing farm in Flint that had the house, it had the land. I can see it all from my window now. That's why I'm nosing out the window. I can sit in my office. I can sit in my cabin that I've got. I can get anywhere in the farm and see the animals. We've got a beautiful woodland with a stream and everything. So everything that I ever wanted to create is all here. And I believe in divine timing. I needed to get to a point where everything was ready to come together. And we have some amazing clients. We've just connected with quite a lot of the like Disability Action, Autism Cornwall, CAP UK, all those kind of things that have reached out to me, support networks that I didn't even know that was there. If you've got a child that's got additional needs, they don't give you a handbook of places where you can find support. And that's one of the things that I'm trying to create. I've just launched a website this weekend, and I'm putting a page on there that'll have obviously your blog on there, your podcast, all the resources that I've found from all these different places, because families need to know about this. There is so much out there, but people don't know. And if they don't know, they can't access it and they can't find the support. And it is very, very isolated. When you've got a child that's got additional needs, you tend to shy away from going to public spaces. Not that you should do, because that's on them, not on you. But you just feel like, because you've got to justify yourself, because you feel judged, because you feel like this overwhelming pressure of you've got to conform to society, that you feel isolated and you tend to take yourself away from things. So with the farm, I try and create that community, and the friendships that the ladies and the gents and the families make is unbreakable, because we all have this thing in common, that they are there for the greater good of their children and to learn and use these resources. So I'm trying to put everything together on the website so that people have these points of access. And there's so much funding out there. There's a lot of children that home educate that don't realise that you can claim funding towards that. So you've got all these usually mums that have given up their career to home educate their child full time, that then lost this big amount of income that they had, that they're then paying out for activities and resources and things like that, that they're then struggling. But there is things out there that can help and support them. Especially if your child's got like an education health plan and things, you'll know better than me what they can tap into, of like paying towards going to activities and stuff. And it's just, this isn't made aware for people. And it's just, I only found out about certain things through certain people contacting me. And there's loads of home education groups on Facebook and on the internet that I didn't even know it was there. People will go to me, oh, have you tried here? And I'm like, no, I didn't know that existed. And it's just because, as much as we do with the love of God trying to share everything, the algorithms in Facebook don't share enough. We're not populated to the top of Google. So these things are just pushed down the line and people don't find them. So my big thing is just spreading the word of what's out there to help and support people, because that is the biggest thing. People just need the help and the support and feel heard and feel like they're not alone.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. As a parent who has a child with additional support needs, and I'm in a home educating family, I think you have to be super resourceful, don't you? And really hunt down what's out there. And sometimes we're just not in a place in ourselves, in our internal states where we've got the energy to do that. So I think that's absolutely right. And what you're doing sounds pretty amazing and really helpful. And I love that you talked about the alignment, you know, you sound like you're really intuitive and you sound like you're really in tune with yourself. And that's kind of, you know, and when that happens, that's when that alignment takes place, isn't it? Because when it all falls into place, because we tune into ourselves.
The biggest thing I teach is connecting with yourself, and you can't serve from an empty cup. And as a mum, we constantly give. So it's like having like 10 spoons. Everything takes a spoon, and then you get to the end of the day and you haven't looked after yourself. And there's an exercise that I do with my ladies on the retreats. You can't pour from an empty cup. So if you're tipping out of your cup, serving your children, trying to juggle everything, and you're not topping up your cup, the cup gets empty. And I've been at the point where it takes so long to fill it back up when I was in the depths of being at the bottom. But if you're constantly looking after yourself, even if it's just 5 minutes here and there, mindful breathing, taking care of you, making sure that you've got your fundamentals of enough hydration, enough food. Because we've all been there, that when it is overwhelming, you're serving to them and you're like, oh, when did I last eat? And you're wondering why you're sick. And keep topping up your cup and you only serve from the overflow, you're never going to be drained and depleted. Everyone else gets everything that they need, but you're also not going to be at the bottom of the pile and feeling like you can't go on anymore. So it is all about taking care of you, which is why I've set up the women's and carers afternoons and evenings that I'm doing, so that they can come and they can connect with other women and find this support network. Because it is you're talking in the ancestral lines where they had the tribe of women, and it was the tribe. It takes a village to raise a child. Saying, if you haven't got that support network around you, you've got no one to talk to, no one to help, it is very lonely and it is very isolating, and you do sink further and further down. So this is about giving the women the space to connect and find the resources, but also teach them things like the mindful breathing, meditation, exercises that they can do to recenter themselves. Because when you're off juggling all these cups, you become out of alignment and you don't feel connected to yourself. You feel displaced, and you're either hyper-focused or you're hyper, where you just feel like you're not with it, and you just sort of like off trying to, like, you're there doing the things that you need to do, but you're not with it. And I think that comes from a lot of things of trying to juggle so many plates and so many different things. So it's just teaching people these things that they can do in everyday life that'll get them through and also stop them from being drained.
Yeah. And what a helpful thing to do, both for the parents and for the children. So what kinds of things happen on the farm, like for children and young children, older children, adults? Tell us all about what happens.
So we tend to have a bit of it's an easy flow going, because children they always say don't work with children and don't work with animals, and I do both.
You do both.
So it does get to the point sometimes where you do feel like that you are talking to yourself, because either the children aren't listening or the animals aren't listening or no one's listening, and you're a bit like, what are we doing? And there's some days where it gets to the end of the 2-hour session and I feel like I've run a marathon, and there's other days where it's completely fine and everyone's happy, usually when the sun's shining and everyone's relaxed, blowing the wind or the rain, and then that's it, all havoc breaks loose. But what we do is the children tend to come. We've got a huge climbing frame, we've got a big trampoline, we've got dens, we've got walking planks, we've got a big outdoor kitchen area, we've got all the fire pit and everything else, as well as all the activities. So they'll come, and I usually give them like 15-20 minutes. They'll all have a bit of a run round. And then we'll go and do some of the farm jobs. So we'll go see the chickens and the ducks. We tend to end up quite a lot in there, just cuddling them and playing with them, collecting the eggs, checking the bedding, making sure the water's done. Because the children get hands-on then, and they're touching it, they're feeling the corn and feeding them out of the hands. But I teach them things in between it. So a lot of things with children is, I don't teach them through pen and paper. We teach them, like, the colour of a hen's cheeks is the colour that the egg is.
Oh, say that again. The colour of the hen's cheek, did you say?
Cheeks is the colour of the egg. So
something
like my brown chickens have brown cheeks, the Warren hens, they lay brown eggs. The white ones, they lay white eggs. Then like my queen leg bars, they lay green eggs. So you have a look at their cheeks, they're green. And then the Marins have got like a burgundy colour, and they lay the dark brown maroon coloured eggs. Oh. So it's all these little things that you teach them that they didn't know about.
Yeah.
And then we'll tend to do things like, we've got a pet lamb that was from this year's lamb called Charcoal. So the kids have been around him since he was pretty much born. He's been out on the farm, and now they'll come and measure how big his horns have got to his left hand look here. So then they're learning about the different sizes and how things are growing. Charcoal's one of our herded lambs, so at the moment he's black, and once he's had his first summer coat, he'll go blue.
Right.
So then obviously they learn that they come from the Lake District. It's Potter who wrote Peter Rabbit. She bred them up on the hills in the Lake District as well. So they'll learn all that, and then they connect with it. The rabbits and guinea pigs will check them over. They'll feed them the fruit and vegetables. So then we'll go through what fruit and veg they like. Make sure that they've got enough bedding, make sure that they've got enough grass, make sure they've got enough hay. We'll play with Percy the pony, which is our little Shetland, which he is going to be a full-on therapy animal, but at the moment he's a little bit cheeky. He's only 2, so he is a little bit mischievous. Then we'll maybe have a little bit more of a play. We'll do some activities, some arts and crafts, which we usually have a different theme. Last week was all to do with sea, so we've got a huge sand pit. I'm talking like 2.5 meters by 2.5 meters. So we brought some of the sand in, and we had animals from underneath the ocean, and we created things to do with that. And we read the story of the rainbow fish, so we created our own fish with the colours. The week before that, I think it was Teddy Bear's Picnic, so we all had the kids bring their favourite teddies, and we used pouring the cups, so they had to measure it out. The rain just really started here. They had to measure all the different things out, and learn about different cakes and the textures in the fields of the cakes. And we're connected with, I don't know if you've heard of Mood Bears, who was on Dragon's Den.
Oh, vaguely. I think I saw that, yes.
So I'm connected with a lady who runs Mums in Business International. I run her sessions for her down in Cornwall. And it's a very good friend and client of hers, Diane, who set up Mood Bears, which has had full-on funding, full investment from Dragon's Den, and they're now global. So each bear has an emotion. So there's happy, there's sad, there's hope. So we had them bears as part of our sessions. So if the children are ever feeling an emotion, they can go have the bear, they can go talk to the bear. So it's another way of getting the children to understand their emotions, regulate with their emotions, and be able to connect with them. Because the biggest thing is, we don't want them to brush that emotion away or dismiss it. We want them to feel it and understand it. So we use the Mood Bears to do that. And then we'll go out and feed the goats and the sheep, which usually is at the river end. Not that the parents will thank me for this. I've taught the kids the North Yorkshire call of come on, but it's a very high pitched come on, and it doesn't matter where the animals are, they will all come running up to the top of the and we've got 6 shout come on at the top of their voice, and all the animals will come running. So then they'll play with the sheep and the goats, they'll play with the texture, they'll feed them, we'll play about in the field with them. We'll go for a walk down to the bottom paddock and go see the bigger horses. We're going on a bear hunt, so we went looking through the forest to see if we could see any bears. So then the kids are seeing different textures, seeing what they can see, seeing if they can see any different animal prints, and see if there's any bear prints, which obviously there isn't. Well, I hope there's no bears in the woods anyway. We saw deer, so that's fine. I don't think bears are native to Cornwall, so we should be fine.
Not yet.
Until one of the sheep comes running out of the woods or something like that. But it's just, we use their imagination and we connect in with it. And once you start to bring out the imagination of the children and they've got the freedom to explore, that's when all these senses come into play, that they can create, they can grow, they can learn, and they can expand. But they're learning without thinking they're learning. Like, we'll count how many eggs there are, we'll count how many different things are, like if we're looking at different trees and things, we'll count out the veg. And we've got children that can't count, that are going to school, and like we went on the Teddy Bear's Picnic hunt, and I'd printed off all the bears and laminated them, but they all had different numbers on. or we'll match the different bears' sizes and learn the sizes. So it's getting them to learn without thinking that they're learning, and that I found with all three of mine, that sticks better than putting a book in front of them.
Yes.
And forcing them to do something. If it has a purpose to do it, they'll do it. So I remember my middle one going to school, and the teacher pulled me over at the end of the day in the section and said, "He can't count." "He can." I said, "He can fluently count to 30. She went, "He can't." She said, "I cannot get him to count." I went, "Ask him to give him a job." She went, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, you have fruit at break, don't you?" She went, "Yeah." Like, "Get him to count it out for the children in the class." She went, "He can count." I'm like, "Yes, but if he doesn't have a purpose, he won't do it." He just thinks it's interesting. So he was telling you he can count. I was like, "He can tell you the makes and models of cars." I said, "In their colour, he can definitely count." So it's just finding ways that gets them inspired, and that's what we do here because we have small groups. We learn what the children like and what they're into, and there'll be children that don't want to do the arts and crafts, so they'll go off and explore with the animals and stuff. Everything's in a fully secure paddock, so I've got different paddocks for different things, and they've got free play. So if they don't want to do an activity, that could be because that doesn't interest them. It could be that it's overstimulating them. We have different areas that they can go off, they can explore, they can go into a quiet corner, they can go play and run off if they want. There's always something for them to do, but the activity is always engaging. So if they want to take part, they can, and I'll encourage them to do it. But if it's not for them, then we won't. Another thing I've found with children that have got sensory needs or additional needs, they don't tend to take part in sports day.
Yes.
Because usually there's not enough one-to-one support, or if they've got anxiety and things, they don't want to do it because they're not sure how they're going to be good. So we do sports day at the farm, and we do it quite a lot. And the kids, we do it through the different things, like we might race the sheep and the goats to see how far we can get and who we can be, or we'll do egg and spoon race and go, "Don't drop my eggs," or I've hard-boiled eggs. So because they know not to drop them on the floor because we'll smash when we're collecting them. So we integrate stuff that we've got at the farm to get, like we'll do proper wheelbarrow race. But then you get the parents joining in, which I tell them it's off their own back. They'll put the kids in the wheelbarrow and push the kids. And it's like, that's up to you. That's your disclosure if you want to do that. But it is all about connecting with what they enjoy and just bringing in the elements and the things that they enjoy to make it a positive experience for them, that they want to keep on doing it. Because I wrote, where did I write it? Not all classrooms have to have walls. Ours has fields and fun, and that's our superpower.
Oh, brilliant.
And that's what it is, that not all of them will conform to the traditional education. And that's something that I think COVID opened many of the parents to realise that it is possible to home educate your child and give them a different way of learning. And that the classrooms don't always work for children. And if you have got the space and the ability to do it, even if your child's at school, tapping into sessions and resources during the school holidays and on a weekend that can help stimulate your child will just make a huge difference to them.
Yeah, and actually some of the things that you're teaching, they don't get taught at school. So that whole stuff about learning how we can tolerate our emotional responses, rather than, as a society, we're very conditioned into avoidance, and we're very conditioned into distraction and consumerism to manage kind of emotional needs. And actually, as you know, this is the stuff that I teach. I teach grown men this stuff, and you're teaching kids, which is just brilliant, because they, that's stuff that they don't get taught in schools about. Actually, we need to learn to tolerate our emotions, and the whole range of emotions is part of the human experience. So we should accept them all, as equal.
Well, there's a poem that I use with my grown-ups about, it's called The Guest House. It's about welcoming emotion.
Yeah, I know the one, yeah.
And it is very much that we don't want the children to put it down or just say that we're sad, angry, happy, or excited. There's a whole range of emotions deeper than them four that we want them to tune into and listen to their body, because there's so much programming in the 0 to 7 years that sets them up for the rest of I obviously teach hypnotherapy, so I know, and you start learning about this thing and you think, oh my God, the things that's programmed into them at 0 to 7 is the fundamentals that will keep coming up through the rest of their life.
Absolutely.
And it can be such simple things of a teacher telling a child who has got ADHD, no, you have to sit down, you have to be quiet, that child then constantly normal. They're not supposed to do this. They have to sit down. What's wrong with me because I can't do this? And there's nothing wrong with this child. They're unique, they're special, they're amazing. That they've just got a gift that they're excited. So they could be the next Usain Bolt. He's not going to sit down in a classroom for however many hours a day. And it's tuning into these unique abilities that they have and breaking away from society's conformed way and beliefs. And it's not, sometimes it's lack of awareness. Sometimes it's generational programming that we have to step back. And if we teach these children now, that then in 30, 40 years' time, the next generation of children that are coming up are going to have such a better understanding that these children that have got autism, that have got ADHD, that have got other issues that don't fit to society's conformity, that it isn't a problem. They are high energy frequency that they don't need this normal stuff. They need to be, everything that we're teaching needs to become normal so that they can thrive.
Yeah.
Because they have these unique abilities that will change the world of how we see things and how we do things. They see things in such different energy and frequency that we can't even understand. It's like Mads, she's non-verbal, she's 3.5, and I've done a lot of research into how to communicate with her. Now, she won't do Makaton signs, she won't do sign language, we do product placement, I call it, but it's like knife and fork is tea, spoon's breakfast, drinking, she'll get a bottle of juice if she wants to drink. She knows what it is that's associated with that. She's very switched up and clued on, but to some settings, they just don't accept that, and that's not the way she does it. If she can't see, she should be doing sign language or Makaton, and she doesn't want to do it. And we connect on energy through music quite a lot. She's very, very musical. I'm tone deaf. I can't sing or play a musical instrument for my life, but we've got something like the tongue drum and things like that. And the frequency from the music helps regulate her. And we do things like just sitting and connecting. Literally, we are all, I'll go off a bit woo now, but we are all connected as one, as a universe. The whole energy is connected. If you're sending out stress, challenged, negative energy, then they're going to feel that, and that's what's going to come back to them. And that's how then we can say the child's unregulated, they're doing this, they're doing that. But it's just, we've just got to tune into their energy and find ways of tuning in and connecting with them to be able to realign. So it's, yeah, I go off a bit woo because I'm very much like that.
Absolutely. I'm as woo as you on that front. So I'm all good with that. Absolutely. I'm very into this sense of us all being connected and part of the universe. So apologies to listeners who might not appreciate the woo.
You want to get yourself on my retreat in September? I've got a space left.
Oh, yeah, I'll definitely look into that. So one of the things I was going to ask on a really practical note, do you have to be kind of like, I don't know, like registered with Ofsted or anything along those lines?
No, so we're set up with the government. I went as a CIC last October just to try and apply for some funding, which I haven't received any funding yet because it is so hard to get to where you need to get the support, because you've got to have 3 unrelated directors who don't want any profit, any acknowledgement, anything else, which then obviously is a big thing. And then you've got to write your grant appeal and everything else. So I haven't managed to get any funding yet. So everything that I do is off my own back and what I raise from doing the session. So everything that I put in. We did run a massive Christmas event, which we managed to get some sponsors for, and I did a raffle to raise funds so we could make sure all the children got stuff, and we could also give sessions away to families that couldn't afford to do it. So no, because the parents attend with their children, we don't, and we're not an education setting.
Right. Okay.
I don't run it like a nursery. I run the session so it's a family thing.
Yes. Yeah.
If I wanted to go down the line of open it up as a full-on school, as in like a forest school kind of type thing, then yes, you could go down the lines of registering with Ofsted and then have play workers and all those kind of things. But I think for me, it's important that I want the families to be involved. I don't want it just to be another place where people can go drop the children off.
Yeah.
Because I see the difference in what it makes with the children and the families connecting, because it creates those bonds, which a lot of them have been disconnected because the families feel burnt out, they feel lost, they feel unsupported, that they just feel like they're just getting through life. And I don't want any family to feel like that. I want them to be able to embrace this uniqueness that their child's got and the dynamic they've got as a family, that they can bring it together and they can enjoy being together. And it's something that I've had to take on board myself with 2 older boys. They'd gone from that we could go and do activities here, there and everywhere without a care in the world. We could sit through a film at the cinema and things like that, to that they've now got a little sister that's very much won't sit through anything, doesn't sit still, very vocal within her sounds. She obviously has a lot of meltdowns and things, that I've had to take a look at how I still give them everything that they need, and also that one-to-one time, and notice that they still need everything that they was getting, plus a little bit more, because they have to make lots of allowances, although they love her dearly, and they do a lot for her and with her. They have to make allowances for her, which is not their fault. And that was my biggest thing, that I never want them to feel like they're second best. They was here first. I love them all equally. So I do involve them. They do a lot with the farm sessions with us in the school holidays, but I do make time to do stuff with them as well. So the farm thing, I want it to be that families learn to come together and do things as well. And that's why in the school holidays we open it up to siblings and things, and we do things like the sports day so that they have stuff that they can do, and the children that have got additional needs on neurodiverse will do things that they can do, but there's also things for both, because things that they can do together and things that they can do separate. And that's where things like CAF UK come in. They do similar things. They have sessions which are for the children that have got additional needs in their families, but they also have sibling only things as well, so that they've got something that's theirs, that's just for them, so that they get that unique attention. And I think that's where working with other charities and things like that makes a big difference. And it's something that, going through business over the years, I was never taught that you collaborate and that you work with other people. You're very much on your own and on your own path. Whereas over the last 3 years, I've learned that connection is key, and helping and supporting each other and feeding into each other's resources, like we're doing now, is the way that we're going to make a difference.
Absolutely.
And that's the most important thing. But I am hoping to get some of the funding, because what I want to be able to do is, a lot of families struggle, especially if they're home educated and they haven't gone down the lines of getting an education health plan. They struggle to get the resources in place, and there's such long waiting lists for things. Like we've waited 2 years nearly for speech and language.
Yes.
And if you haven't got the funds to pay privately, then that's a big thing that you're missing. So we've actually connected with quite a few people that are sensory play specialists, speech and language, and what we want to do is be able to bring those resources paid for by funding into the farm, so that they're there for sessions, so that families who need that support can have it there and then, and they're not waiting 2 years. So that's my big push forward, is that I want to be able to bring these resources into the farming mother so that people have access to them. And another thing that I want to do is, when we came down on holiday was the first time we'd taken Mad on holiday. And if you've got a child that has got additional needs or is neurodiverse, doesn't understand danger and things like that, holiday sites are not set up for it. We stayed in a caravan on a site, and obviously the road's directly outside the caravan. It's an unfamiliar setting for the children. They've got no safe, secure area, and a lot of it's overwhelming because it's overcrowded. So I've got my glamping pods, and I've set up some individual paddocks, and I'm trialing it at the moment just for a couple of weeks this year, and then we're hoping to go for full planning to be able to do it the whole of next year. That families have their own individual plot which is, I'm talking like half an acre, that they have their own bale tent. We'll have one family at a time, or families that know each other, so that the children aren't exposed to anything different. It's their own community that they know, and that they can access the farm's resources while they're here. So like the education play, the support play, all the resources that we've got here, but they've got their own. We've already put it all in. So they've already got their own toilet block, shower block, kitchen area. But they've got that space where the parents can relax and have a holiday, because they know their child's in a secure. I do say pen. It's not a pen. It's a full paddock. But
I need a pen.
It's a safe area that's fenced in with stock fencing, with posts and rail, so that they have got the space that their child can run free and can play on all this equipment that I use for the farm sessions, see the animals and take advantage of all this. And then if they want to go off and explore in Cornwall, they can do, but they've got this safe space to come back to when it becomes overwhelming. So they've got if they just want to spend the whole holiday here, they can do. But if they want to go off and explore things and it gets too busy and the child's unregulated and they can come back, and this is the safe space that the child knows is theirs. They know where everything is. They know they don't have to worry about other families. They know that they don't have to worry about 1,000,001 people that don't understand additional needs, looking on, judging and feeling like, how can we relax because we can't let them play out, we can't let them explore. If you've got a child that's got ADHD that's locked up in a caravan and can't play out for a week, they're going to be bouncing off the walls and you're going to be stressed. No amount of meditation, breathing exercises or anything else is going to calm you down, because you've got this child that is so tense and wound up, just ready to explode because they haven't had that outlet. So that's what we want to create at the farm. And I'm hoping that through applying for funding, we'll be able to fund sessions to families that can't get here because of funds, or at least fund part of the sessions for them, so that they've got it. Because obviously there's things like Family Fund out there and stuff, which fund is every 2 years they can claim towards a holiday or things that they need. So we're hoping to point families in that direction, that obviously will only have limited amount of funds, but if they can claim through Family Fund or half of the holiday, that then we can put towards, or that they can put towards, that I don't think that anybody should miss out just because they've got a child that's got additional needs, or that the funds aren't available, because a break away and doing something like this, it'll be the thing that keeps them going for the rest of the year, that then they can access it the year after. So that's the big plan going forward with it, is to make it on a bigger scale, that we can help and support families to have a break.
What an amazing vision. I've no doubt that you'll get there. You seem like a really determined and inspirational woman.
Thank you very much. And it's just people like yourself, and we've just got to do what we've got to do to make other families know that they're supported and they're valued and that their needs are going to be met.
Yeah, absolutely. And so do you also do things with slightly older children? I know you talked a bit about the kind of 0 to 7s. Are there any older children?
So with our children, we have on a Wednesdays, we say toddler session. So we usually take up to 11. And then on a Friday, it's an open session. So any age is welcome. It's just on a Wednesday, we tend to do story time and things, which if you're trying to get a 13, 14-year-old to connect on story time, they just look at you like you're trying to ask them to do something alien. But saying that, if they do have younger siblings with them, they do get on really well. And what I've found is, when you have the different age groups, like we'll have some that come at that are 16, and then we've got some that are 1. The children that are older connecting with the little ones look up to the big ones start helping the little ones, and then they grow them skills of helping and supporting and learning all these vital skills of how to be emotionally connected with the children, but also gives them that little bit of responsibility. Because a big thing that I've learned is, if a child has got additional needs, they are looked on like they can't do a lot of things. And this is one of the things why one of my very first podcast interviews was with Ellie, and she has Down syndrome, and she teaches younger children sign language. And that gives her that inspiration that she's someone to look up to. And it gives her that responsibility that she's helping and supporting, which also brings all these new skills that she's developing, which a lot of the time, children who have got additional needs are looked on that they can't do a lot of these things. But if we give them the opportunity, they surprise you. They can do so much more when the opportunities are there for them to do it. Don't get me wrong, they'll need support, they'll need different ways of doing it, but they thrive on being able to be the one that's being looked up to and feel like they're supporting someone else rather than them having to have the support all the time, which it just makes a huge difference. And when you see these connections of them doing it and you just stand back and watch, it's amazing.
Yeah. And I think it's a thing in the home ed world, much more than it is for kids that go to school, you know, that actually in the home ed world, it's really normal for kids of different ages to be mixing, you know, and interacting with each other at kind of, you know, different stages. And actually it's that there's something of that lost, isn't there, in mainstream education where we separate children by age, you know, and I think
that's one thing that, go on.
No, sorry, go on.
I was just saying, and I think, like you say, that's something that is lost. And I think, especially in the home education community, there is so many things that is setting up the kids for a better life than conforming to the regulations of a mainstream school.
Yeah.
Whether they have additional needs or not, the things that they are learning, like simple things like money management, cooking skills, outdoor pursuits, how to connect with animals, how to connect with nature, getting out to the beach for your ocean studies rather than learning it from a textbook it's vital to them. And so many different things, like you say, connecting with younger children and older children, that children that have conformed to mainstream education will never learn. And it's sad, really, because there's things that should be put into schools, mindfulness practices, getting outside, that will benefit all children. And I think that's where home education gets a lot of stick, and they make it very hard for parents to home educate their children. But if you actually looked into it and took some of the things on board of why the parents home educate and actually brought that into the school system, it'd change everything across the board and make it more accessible for everyone to be able to have their needs met.
Yeah, I entirely agree with you. And thank goodness we've got people like you, Keeley, because you sound absolutely amazing. And I'm so impressed with what you do, what you offer, you know, not just for kids, but as you say, for parents as well. And it is, you know, what you're describing is a community, and that's really important.
I think creating the community is what will make the difference, because you're educating both adult and child so that they can come united and work together, rather than it being, this is what we're battling against, this is what we're doing. As we understand them better, and we also understand our needs better, it brings everything together. And I think the children have much more awareness then of what the parent's going through, and the parent has much more awareness of what the child's going through. And just simply like working with the emotions and stuff like that. Like I say, each generation, we're programmed of how we should act and how we should listen to our emotions, and that we shouldn't feel sad and we shouldn't cry and we shouldn't feel angry. But they're just emotions, and we all have them. And if we connect with them better, we better understand, and the world will be a better place.
Absolutely. Yeah, what a great thing to end on. So Keeley, if people are lucky enough to live in our part of the world, or if they in the future fancy coming down to see you, where can people find you?
So we just launched the website. So we are www.thefarmingmother.com. So you can find us on there. The sessions are on there, how you can book with us, whether it's the group sessions or private sessions, or drop me a message if you want a holiday. And then we're on Facebook and Instagram as well. I do have a TikTok account, but I haven't kept up to it for a very long time because there's far too much to do with socials. I think they've added another one now, haven't they, like Threads or something like that, and it's just socials are manic. So we do put a lot of updates on the Farming Mother Facebook and Instagram, and also I have a weekly blog that goes out, which is Friday on the Farm. So that covers anything that's happened, any mishaps, fun, crazy antics of the animals. And also I put in there things like what I've done with Mads, how she's been, which I think makes it more relatable. I'm not just a person just telling you about the sessions that you can attend. I'm telling you about that it's real life. I'm a mum to 3 with a crazy bunch of animals, with a child that from one minute to the next minute, she doesn't know what emotion she's going to have. And whether we're out on the farm or we're at the beach by 9 o'clock just for her to just stand and watch the waves, it's all the tides that you've got to ride, and it's just showing that is what it is. But like I say, I am trying to put the resources together to go on the website as well, because I want everyone to be able to have access to everything that they need and support-wise.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And thanks for talking to us today.
And thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Please come back sometime. We'd love to hear some updates from you. I'm just going to remind our listeners to also join our Facebook group, Home Education Matters, and you'll find lots of resources on there from previous guests. And thanks very much, Keeley, once again. We'll look forward to listening to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us for today's Home Education Matters podcast. See you at the next one. Have a lovely day.